Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video. That way, you'll always stay connected to our stories and never miss the next adventure. Amara had exactly 3 minutes left on her shift when she heard the screaming. 3 minutes. 180 seconds between her and a hot shower, a cold beer, and the blissful silence of her tiny apartment where nobody needed anything from her and nothing was on fire. She'd been counting down since hour 9 of this 12-hour nightmare, watching the clock tick with the desperate focus of a woman who'd unloaded 6 freight containers of mining equipment in 90-degree heat. But no, the universe had other plans. Because of course it did. The sound came from the alley behind the cargo docks, the kind of narrow, trash-filled gap between buildings where smart people didn't go after dark. Amara was many things, stubborn, sarcastic, possibly too fond of cheap whiskey, but she'd never been accused of being smart. Not when it counted, anyway. She should have kept walking, should have clocked out, gone home, pretended she hadn't heard a thing. That was the frontier colony survival rule number 1. Mind your own business. Keep your head down. Don't get involved in whatever fresh hell was brewing in the shadows. Instead, she grabbed the cargo hook hanging by the loading bay door and headed toward the noise. "Stupid," she muttered to herself. "This is stupid. You're stupid." The alley reeked of rotting garbage and something chemical that probably violated at least 6 environmental regulations. Amara's boots splashed through something she really hoped was just water as she rounded the corner, cargo hook held like a very inadequate weapon. What she found made her stop dead. 4 men, human, which somehow made it worse, had backed something small and terrified against the far wall. They had the look of hired muscle, cheap armor, cheaper weapons, and the kind of swagger that came from never having met real consequences. The kind of thugs who worked for smugglers or gang bosses, doing the dirty work for people too smart to get their own hands bloody. The small, terrified something was a child. Not a human child, though. This kid had scales that shimmered iridescent even in the dim light, and eyes that reflected the glow from the street like a cat's. Claws on hands that were too small to do any real damage, and a tail that lashed in fear. The kid couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 in human years, wearing clothes that looked expensive, real fabric, not synthweave. Amara's brain supplied the information automatically. HFY, one of the apex predator species, the kind of aliens who grew up to be 8 feet of muscle, fang, and attitude. The kind who ran half the military operations in this sector of space and looked at humans like we were cute, squishy things that broke too easily to be useful. This particular HFY was currently shaking like a leaf and making small, terrified chirping sounds. "Come on, little guy," one of the thugs was saying, his voice doing that fake-friendly thing that made Amara's skin crawl. "We're not gonna hurt you. Just gonna take you somewhere safe, yeah? Your family's gonna pay good money to get you back." Ransom? Of course. Because kidnapping an apex predator's child was definitely a plan made by people who thought things through. The kid pressed harder against the wall, claws scraping uselessly against concrete. Amara cleared her throat. All 4 thugs spun around, weapons coming up. She got a good look at what she was dealing with. Plasma pistols, the cheap kind that overheated after 6 shots, but would absolutely turn her into a smoking crater before that became a problem. "Evening, gentlemen," she said, keeping her voice level and her cargo hook visible. "Lovely night for felony kidnapping." The lead thug, shaved head, scar across his nose, probably thought he looked intimidating, laughed. "Walk away, lady. This doesn't concern you." "See? I would," Amara said, taking a step forward. I really would. I've had a long day. My back hurts. I'm pretty sure I pulled something in my shoulder. And I've got a date with a shower that's been calling my name for the last 3 hours. Another step. But here's my problem, she continued. I walk away, and tomorrow I wake up knowing I let 4 grown men terrorize a kid. And then I've got to live with that. And I'm already living with enough bad decisions without adding that to the pile. Your funeral, Scarface said, raising his pistol. Yeah, Amara sighed. Probably. She moved fast. Not fast enough to dodge a plasma bolt, but fast enough to be unpredictable. The cargo hook swung out, caught Scarface's wrist, and his shot went wide, scorching the wall above the kid's head. Amara followed through, driving her boot into his knee. Something crunched. He went down screaming. Then everything went sideways. The other 3 opened fire, and Amara did the only thing she could think of. She threw herself between the kid and the guns. The first bolt hit her in the shoulder, and it felt like someone had shoved a red-hot poker through her flesh. The second caught her in the ribs. The third, fourth, and fifth came so fast she couldn't tell where they hit, just that her entire body was suddenly made of fire and agony. She heard the kid screaming, a high, terrified sound that cut through the pain. 6th shot. Her leg gave out. The 7th knocked her flat. The 8th. The 8th, she didn't really feel. Everything had gone distant and fuzzy, like she was watching it happen to someone else. She was on the ground, she realized. When had that happened? The kid was underneath her, protected by her body, still making those scared, chirping sounds. You crazy! One of the thugs was shouting, but his voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. Footsteps. Running. The thugs were leaving, probably heard sirens, or maybe they'd just realized they'd shot a human in front of a witness, and that was going to bring heat they didn't want. Amara tried to move to check if the kid was okay, but her body wasn't responding anymore. Everything felt cold despite the burning pain. That was bad, right? She was pretty sure that was bad. The kid wriggled out from under her, and she got a glimpse of those big, reflective eyes staring down at her. The little haxorhy was saying something, but Amara couldn't make out the words. Everything was getting darker. Her last coherent thought was, well, this is officially the dumbest way I've ever almost died, and I once tried to arm wrestle a cargo loader. Then the darkness swallowed her whole, and Amara stopped thinking anything at all. Somewhere far away, she was vaguely aware of more sounds. Shouting, the whine of emergency vehicles, someone lifting her, multiple someones, strong hands, urgent voices speaking in languages she didn't recognize. But it all felt very far away, and not particularly important anymore. If this was dying, it was a lot less dramatic than the movies made it look. Mostly, it was just quiet and cold. And then, nothing at all. Waking up was a mistake. That was Amara's first coherent thought, as consciousness dragged her up from the comfortable void. Her second thought was that everything hurt in that special way that suggested her body had been disassembled, run through a wood chipper, and then reassembled by someone working from a badly translated instruction manual. Her third thought was, why am I not dead? She cracked one eye open and immediately regretted it. The light was too bright, too clean, too white. This wasn't the dingy emergency clinic near the docks where freight workers went when they couldn't afford to miss work. This was the kind of medical facility that had actual windows and equipment that looked like it had been manufactured sometime in the current decade. "Oh, good," a male voice said from somewhere to her left. "You're awake. I was starting to wonder if you'd decided to just sleep through the next month." Amara turned her head, slowly, because apparently her neck had opinions about sudden movements, and found a human man in a white coat sitting in a chair beside her bed. He was maybe 50, with gray streaking through dark hair, and the kind of tired eyes that said he'd seen some things and wasn't particularly impressed by any of them. "Where?" Her voice came out like gravel. She tried again. "Where am I?" "Mercy General, Upper District," the man said. "I'm Dr. Harry. And before you ask, yes, you should be dead. No, I don't know how you're not. And yes, someone paid for the very expensive treatment that's the only reason we're having this conversation." Amara processed that. Upper District, the fancy part of Ironhaven where people had things like savings accounts and furniture that matched. She'd been there exactly once to deliver a package and had felt out of place the entire time. "How long?" she asked. "3 weeks, give or take," Harry said. "You were in a medically induced coma while the regenerative treatment did its work. You took 8 plasma bolts at close range. Your shoulder was slag, 3 ribs were powder, your left lung was perforated, and your femur had a hole in it the size of my fist." He said it clinically, like he was reading a grocery list. Amara appreciated that. She didn't need sympathy. She needed information. "The kid?" she asked. Harry's expression shifted into something that might have been amusement. "The kid is fine. Not a scratch on him thanks to you using your body as a meat shield. Which, for the record, was either the bravest or stupidest thing I have seen in 20 years of emergency medicine. And I once treated a guy who tried to fight a cargo mech with his bare hands." "Stupid," Amara said. "Definitely stupid." "Well, the kid's family disagrees." Harry stood up, and there was something in his posture that made Amara nervous. "Which brings me to the complicated part of this conversation. You've got visitors, a lot of them, and they've been waiting very patiently for you to wake up." "Visitors?" Amara tried to sit up, and discovered that her body had strong feelings about that plan. "Who?" "The kind that travel with armed escorts and diplomatic credentials," Harry said. "The kind that make hospital administrators very, very nervous. The kind that— Look, I'm just going to say it. There are HFY Imperial Guards outside your room right now, and they've been there for 2 weeks." Amara stared at him. "I'm sorry. There are— what?" "Imperial Guards. Elite military. The kind of soldiers who could probably take out this entire building without breaking a sweat." Harry ran a hand through his hair. "Turns out the kid you saved wasn't just any HFY cub. His name is Rennick, and his father is High Commander Naxrill. As in, one of the most powerful military leaders in HFY society. As in, the kind of person who can make entire planets nervous." The room suddenly felt too small. Amara's brain, still fuzzy from 3 weeks of forced unconsciousness, tried to process this information and failed spectacularly. "Oh," she said. "Oh, that's just fantastic." "It gets better," Harry said, and his tone suggested it absolutely did not get better. "The commander wants to meet you. He's been asking every day when you'd wake up. And before you ask, no, you can't say no. I mean, you can, but I don't recommend it. These people take honor and debts very seriously." "How seriously?" "The kind of seriously where refusing to meet him would be considered a grave insult and might cause an interstellar incident," Harry said. "So, you know, no pressure." Amara closed her eyes and counted to 10, then 20. Then she gave up because numbers weren't making this situation any less insane. "Fine," she said. "Wheel him in. Let's get this over with." "You sure? You just woke up. I can tell him you need more time." "Dr. Harry," Amara said, opening her eyes, "I'm lying in a hospital bed in the fancy part of town, apparently alive because some alien warlord paid for experimental treatment. and there are elite soldiers outside my door. I don't think more time is going to make this less weird." Harry nodded slowly. "Fair point. I'll let them know." He left, and Amara had about 30 seconds to contemplate her life choices before the door opened again. The Haxree who entered had to duck to fit through the doorway. He was massive, easily 8 feet tall, with scales that shimmered deep crimson and gold. His eyes were amber, slit-pupilled, and currently fixed on Amara with an intensity that made her want to hide under the blankets. He wore armor that looked ceremonial, but probably functioned just fine in actual combat, and he moved with the fluid grace of something that had been killing things efficiently for a very long time. Behind him, 2 more Haxree in military gear flanked the door. Guards for the guard, apparently. High Commander Naxrill stopped at the foot of her bed and just looked at her. Amara looked back, because she'd never been good at backing down, even when it was clearly the smart choice. The silence stretched out. Amara's internal monologue was screaming. Finally, Naxrill spoke. His voice was deep, resonant, and carried an accent that turned human words into something more growled than spoken. "You are Amara." It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. "That's me. Dock worker, bad decision-maker, apparently too stubborn to die." Something flickered in those amber eyes. "You saved my son." "I got in the way of some bullets," Amara said. "Not sure that counts as saving." "You placed your body between him and harm," Naxrill said. "You took wounds that should have killed you. You did this for a child not of your species, not of your clan, not of your world. This is not getting in the way. This is sacrifice." The way he said that last word made it sound important. Capital S, important. "Look," Amara said, "I'm not trying to be difficult here, but I really just did what anyone would do. Kid was scared, bad guys had guns, I had a cargo hook and a history of poor impulse control. That's the whole story." "No," Naxrill said, and there was something almost confused in his tone. "That is not what anyone would do. Most would flee. Many would hide. Some would call for help and hope it arrived in time. You attacked 4 armed males with a tool and your bare hands. You used your flesh as a shield. This is not normal behavior." "Well, normal's overrated," Amara muttered. Naxrill moved closer, and Amara fought the urge to sink deeper into the bed. He wasn't being threatening, at least she didn't think he was, but he was just so damn big, and every instinct she had was screaming that this was a predator, and she was very, very small. "In my culture," Naxrill said slowly, "a life debt is sacred. Absolute. You saved my son's life at the cost of your own. That you survived does not diminish the debt. It increases it." "I'm not asking for anything," Amara said, quickly. "Seriously, we're good. You paid for the fancy medical treatment, which, thank you for that, and we can just call it even." "We cannot call it even," Naxrill interrupted, and there was something almost offended in his tone. "There is no even. There is debt, and there is honor, and there is family. You have given me back my son. There is no payment that balances this." He straightened, and suddenly his posture changed into something formal, ritualistic. The 2 guards by the door snapped to attention. "I, High Commander Naxrill of the Crimson Fleet, declare before witnesses that Amara of Ironhaven is kin-chosen. She is blood of my blood, clan of my clan, family of my family. Her enemies are my enemies. Her honor is my honor. This bond is eternal and unbreakable." The words hung in the air like something physical. The guards had their fists over their hearts. Naxrill was staring at her with an expression that might have been respect or might have been something else entirely. Amara's brain had officially given up. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm what now?" "Kin chosen," Naxrill repeated. "It is the highest honor my people can bestow. You are now considered part of my family. My clan will protect you, provide for you, honor you as one of our own." "But I'm human," Amara said, because apparently that was where her brain had decided to make it stand. "I'm not. We're not even the same species. How does that work?" "It has never been done before," Naxrill admitted. "You are the first alien to be named Kin Chosen. But the law is clear. One who saves the life of a clan member at risk of their own becomes family. The law does not specify species. So you're just adopting me into your alien warrior family because I got shot?" "Because you chose to get shot," Naxrill corrected. "Because when faced with danger, you did not calculate odds or consider consequences. You simply acted. This is the mark of true strength, true honor." Amara laughed. She couldn't help it. The sound came out slightly hysterical. But honestly, who could blame her? "Okay," she said. "Okay, this is insane. This is completely insane. I'm a freight dock supervisor. I live in a 400-square-foot apartment. I eat instant noodles for dinner 3 nights a week. I am not warrior family material." "You faced 4 armed enemies alone," Naxrill said. "You took 8 plasma bolts and survived. You protected a child with your life. What part of this is not warrior behavior?" "The part where I was mostly just annoyed and not thinking clearly?" "Courage is not the absence of fear," Naxrill said. "It is action despite fear. You have proven your courage. The matter is settled." He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "My son wishes to visit you," he said. "When you are stronger. He has been asking every day." "The kid's okay?" Amara asked. "Really okay?" "Not a scratch," Naxrill said, and something in his voice softened. "Because of you. Rest now, Amara. Kin chosen. We will speak again soon." He left, guards following, and the room suddenly felt much larger and much quieter. Dr. Harry poked his head back in. "So," he said, "that happened?" "I've been adopted by alien warriors," Amara said to the ceiling. "This is my life now." "Could be worse," Harry offered. "How? How could this possibly be worse?" Harry considered. "Well, you could still be dead." "Yeah," Amara sighed. "There is that." She closed her eyes and tried very hard not to think about what being kin chosen to a high commander actually meant. She had a feeling she was going to find out whether she wanted to or not. Amara was discharged from Mercy General 5 days later, and that's when she learned that her life had become a circus. A circus with armed guards, media drones, and apparently a security detail that followed her everywhere, like the world's most intimidating shadows. "This is ridiculous," she said, for the 15th time that morning, staring at the HFY warrior currently standing outside her apartment door. "I don't need a bodyguard. I live on the 4th floor of a building with broken elevators. The most dangerous thing here is the mold in the bathroom." Lieutenant Horan, because of course he had a rank and a name, and apparently a permanent assignment to make her life complicated, didn't even blink. He was smaller than Naxrill, only about 6.5 feet tall, with dark green scales and eyes that tracked every movement in the hallway, like he was expecting an attack from the vending machine. "High Commander's orders," Horan said, his voice clipped and professional. "You are kin chosen. You will be protected." "I've lived here for 3 years without protection," Amara pointed out. "I think I can manage." "You were not a political symbol 3 years ago," Horan replied. You were not known across 6 star systems. You were not the first human to be named kin chosen to a HFY clan. You are now all of these things. Therefore, you will be protected. He said it like he was explaining basic math to a particularly slow child. Amara resisted the urge to throw something at him. "I don't want to be a political symbol," she muttered, unlocking her door. "I want to be a person who drinks coffee in her underwear and doesn't have an audience." "Then you should not have saved the High Commander's son," Horan said. Amara turned to stare at him. "Are you seriously suggesting I should have let a kid get kidnapped?" "I am suggesting that actions have consequences," Horan said. "You chose to act. These are the consequences." "You know what? I don't like you," Amara said. "That is acceptable," Horan replied. "I am not here to be liked. I am here to ensure you survive." Amara slammed the door in his face and immediately felt childish about it. Then she decided she didn't care. If she was going to be stuck with a judgmental lizard cat warrior following her around, she was allowed to be petty about it. Her apartment looked exactly the same as she'd left it 3 weeks ago, which was somehow both comforting and depressing. Dishes in the sink, laundry on the chair. The plant by the window that she'd named Herbert was definitely dead now. Nothing had changed, except everything had changed, and Amara didn't know how to process that. She made coffee, the cheap instant kind that tasted like regret, and sat on her couch, trying to figure out what came next. Her comm unit buzzed, then buzzed again, then started buzzing continuously. Messages. Hundreds of them. Interview requests from news outlets across the colony and beyond. Job offers from security companies. Marriage proposals from people she'd never met. Threats from people who apparently had strong feelings about humans getting special treatment from alien species. Amara turned the comm unit off and threw it across the room. "This is fine," she said to her dead plant. "Everything is fine." Herbert did not respond, being dead. The knock on her door 3 hours later was small and hesitant, nothing like Horan's earlier pounding. Amara opened it to find Rennick standing in the hallway, looking up at her with those big reflective eyes. He was wearing clean clothes now, expensive-looking, and there was an older HFY female behind him. A nanny or guardian, probably. Horan loomed in the background, watching. "Hi," Rennick said in heavily accented human standard. "You are awake." Something in Amara's chest did a weird twisting thing. The kid was okay. Really, actually okay. Not a scratch on him, just like everyone had said. "Yeah," she said, crouching down to his level and immediately regretting it when her still healing ribs protested. "I'm awake. How are you doing, kid?" "I am good," Rennick said. "Because of you. Father says you are family now. He says you are very brave." "Your father gives me too much credit," Amara said. "I just did what needed doing." "You took the fire weapons," Rennick said, and his voice got smaller. "You covered me. I thought you were dead. There was so much blood." Oh no. The kid had trauma. Of course he had trauma. He'd watched someone get shot 8 times right in front of him. "Hey," Amara said softly. "I'm okay. See? Still here, still kicking. Takes more than a few plasma bolts to keep me down." Rennick reached out and touched her arm, like he needed to confirm she was real. His claws were tiny, barely sharp enough to scratch. "I brought you something," he said, pulling a small object from his pocket. "Father says, when someone saves your life, you give them a token, so they remember you are grateful." He held out what looked like a small carved stone, smooth and dark, with symbols etched into its surface. "It is from our home world," Rennick explained. "It means protector. Father says you are my protector now. Family protects family. Amara took the stone, and that weird twisting thing in her chest got worse. She wasn't good with emotions. She was good with cargo manifests and sarcasm and keeping her head down. This was way outside her comfort zone. "Thank you," she managed. "I'll keep it safe." Rennick smiled, showing way too many teeth, and Amara reminded herself that this cute kid would eventually grow up to be an 8-foot apex predator. Biology was weird. The nanny ushered Rennick away after a few more minutes, and Amara was left standing in her doorway, holding a carved stone and feeling like her life had tilted sideways. "That was kind of him," Horan said from his post. "I thought you didn't do small talk," Amara said. "I do not," Horan replied. "I am making an observation. The young one has been distressed since the incident. You are the first person who has made him smile." Amara looked at the stone in her hand. "He's a good kid." "He is the son of a high commander," Horan said. "He will be a warrior, a leader. He will command fleets and make decisions that affect billions. But yes, he is also a good child." Something in Horan's tone made Amara look at him more closely. "You don't think I should be kin-chosen, do you?" Horan was quiet for a long moment. "I think you are human. Soft. Weak. Your species has been part of the Galactic Coalition for less than a generation. You have no warrior tradition, no honor codes, no understanding of what it means to be HFY? Tell me how you really feel," Amara muttered. "But," Horan continued, "the High Commander has made his decision, and the High Commander does not make decisions lightly. So I will protect you, whether I understand his reasoning or not." "How inspiring," Amara said, really feeling the family love here. "You want honesty or comfort?" Horan asked. "I can provide only one." "Honesty's fine," Amara sighed. "I've had enough smoke blown up my—" The explosion cut her off. It came from below, a massive boom that shook the entire building. Amara stumbled, and Horan moved faster than anything that size should be able to move, pulling her back into her apartment. "Stay down!" he barked, and suddenly he had a weapon in his hand. Where had he been keeping that? And was speaking rapidly into a comm unit in his own language. "What the hell?" Amara started. Another explosion. Closer. The lights flickered. "We are under attack," Horan said, scanning the hallway. "Someone has breached the building perimeter. We need to move. Now." "Attack? Who's attacking?" "Does it matter?" Horan grabbed her arm, carefully but firmly. "There are people trying to kill you. We can discuss their motivations after you are not dead." He pulled her into the hallway, and Amara's brain finally caught up with what was happening. Someone was trying to kill her. Actually, genuinely trying to kill her. Because she'd saved a kid and become famous, and apparently that made her a target. "I really hate my life right now," she said. "Complain later," Horan said. "Run, now." They ran. The stairwell was full of smoke, and Amara could hear screaming from the lower floors. Horan moved like he'd done this 1,000 times, weapon up, checking corners, keeping himself between her and any potential threats. They made it down 2 floors before the attackers found them. 3 figures in tactical gear, faces covered, weapons raised. They opened fire without warning, and Horan shoved Amara behind a concrete pillar hard enough to knock the wind out of her. He returned fire, and the sound was deafening in the enclosed space. 1 attacker went down. Then another. The third got a shot off that scorched the wall inches from Amara's head. Horan moved, fast and brutal, and suddenly the third attacker was on the ground with Horan's claws at his throat. "Who sent you?" Horan demanded. The attacker said nothing. Haran applied pressure, and the attacker made a choking sound. Who sent you? The collective, the attacker gasped. The collective of rational governance. You're contaminating the galaxy. Humans don't belong. Haran knocked him unconscious before he could finish. We need to move, he said, pulling Amara up. There will be more. They made it to the ground floor and out into the street, where chaos reigned. Emergency vehicles, security forces, and a crowd of onlookers with cameras. Amara's building was on fire, smoke pouring from the lower floors. A transport vehicle screeched to a halt in front of them, and Naxrill emerged, looking absolutely murderous. You are unharmed? He demanded, looking Amara over. I'm fine, Amara said. Haran got me out. What the hell is going on? An assassination attempt, Naxrill said. The collective of rational governance. A political faction that believes humans are inferior and should not be elevated within coalition society. They see your kin-chosen status as an insult to superior species. So they tried to blow me up, Amara said. That seems excessive. They tried to make a statement, Naxrill said. They failed, and now they will face consequences. He turned to Haran. You protected her. It is my duty, Haran said. You did well, Naxrill said, and there was approval in his voice. Then he looked at Amara. You cannot return to your home. It is not safe. You will stay in the diplomatic quarter, under full guard, until this threat is eliminated. I don't want to hide, Amara said, surprising herself. These people tried to kill me because I saved a kid, because I'm human, and apparently that's offensive to them. If I hide, they win. If you die, they also win, Naxrill pointed out. Then don't let me die, Amara said, but I'm not hiding. I'm not giving them the satisfaction. Naxrill studied her for a long moment. Then something that might have been respect flickered in his eyes. You are very stubborn, he said. Yeah, Amara said. I've been told. Good, Naxrill said. Stubbornness is a warrior trait. Come, we have much to discuss, and enemies to hunt. As they climbed into the transport, Amara caught Haran, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. What? She asked. Nothing, Haran said. I am simply reconsidering my earlier assessment. Of what? Of whether humans understand what it means to be warriors, Haran said quietly. Perhaps I was wrong. Amara didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing. But she kept the carved stone Rennick had given her clutched tight in her hand, and she thought about what it meant to be a protector. And she thought about the people who'd tried to kill her for the crime of being human and being honored. And she got angry. Not the hot, explosive kind of angry. The cold, determined kind. The kind that made decisions and stuck to them. If the collective wanted to make her a symbol, fine. She'd be a symbol, just not the kind they were expecting. The Galactic Council Summit was held in the largest convention center on Ironhaven, a massive structure of glass and steel that was supposed to represent unity and cooperation among species. Right now, it mostly represented a very large target. Amara stood in the staging area backstage, wearing clothes that cost more than 3 months of her old salary and feeling like a fraud. The human delegation was around her, colonists, engineers, administrators, all looking nervous. They'd been invited to present humanity's petition for elevated status within the coalition, to argue that humans deserved a real voice in galactic affairs. And Amara was supposed to be their symbol, their proof that humans were worthy. No pressure. You do not have to do this, Naxrill said from beside her. He'd been against the plan from the start, but Amara had been stubborn. and eventually he'd given in. We have intelligence that the collective will strike today. Let them come to us, on ground of our choosing. Not here, where innocence will be caught in the crossfire. If I hide, they win, Amara said. We've been over this. If you die, they also win, Naxriel countered. We have been over that as well. Then I guess I better not die, Amara said. Horan appeared from the shadows. He was good at that, she'd learned. Perimeter is secure. My team is in position. If the collective makes a move, we will be ready. You sound almost concerned, Lieutenant, Amara said. Careful. People might think you actually like me. I do not like you, Horan said, but there was something in his tone that suggested he was lying. I simply prefer that you remain alive. It would reflect poorly on me if you died under my protection. How touching, Amara said. A human aide poked her head in. 5 minutes, everyone. They're ready for you. The delegation filed out toward the stage, and Amara took a breath. She could do this. She'd faced down armed thugs, survived 8 plasma bolts, and lived through 3 weeks of being a galactic celebrity. She could handle a speech. Probably. The convention center was packed. Thousands of beings from dozens of species, all watching as the human delegation took the stage. Amara spotted the collective representatives in the audience. They weren't hiding, which was bold or stupid or both. They wore the gray and silver colors of their faction, and they watched the humans with expressions that ranged from contempt to outright hostility. The human ambassador, a woman named Clarissa, who actually knew what she was doing, began the presentation. She talked about human contributions to the coalition, about the colonies they'd built, the trade routes they'd established, the problems they'd solved. She was good, professional, hitting all the right notes, and the collective representatives looked bored. Then Clarissa introduced Amara, and the energy in the room shifted. This is Amara, Clarissa said, a freight dock worker who became the first human to be named kin-chosen by a Haxri clan. Her story represents what humanity brings to the coalition: courage, compassion, and the willingness to act when action is needed. Amara stepped forward, and every camera in the room focused on her. She hated it. I'm not a politician, she said, because starting with honesty seemed like the only way to get through this. I'm not a diplomat or a warrior or anyone important. 3 weeks ago, I was unloading cargo containers and counting down the minutes until my shift ended. Then I heard a kid screaming, and I made a choice. She could see Naxriel in the wings, watching. Rennick was beside him, small and attentive. I didn't think about species or politics or galactic implications, Amara continued. I just thought, there's a kid in trouble, and I can help. So I did. And yeah, I got shot 8 times for it, which I don't recommend, by the way. The recovery is terrible. A few laughs from the audience. Good. Humor helped. But here's what I learned, Amara said. Strength isn't about how big you are or how many weapons you have. It's about what you do when everything's on the line. It's about choosing to act when walking away would be easier. Humans might be new to the galaxy, and we might be smaller and softer than a lot of species here, but we don't quit. We don't back down. And we don't let kids get hurt if we can do something about it. One of the collective representatives stood up. Inspiring words, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. But words are cheap. Humans are weak. You survived through luck and alien charity. Nothing more. You are not warriors. You are not worthy of elevation. You are... The explosion cut him off. It came from the east entrance, a massive blast that shook the entire building. Then another from the west. The lights went out, emergency systems kicked in, and suddenly there was screaming and chaos and the sound of weapons fire. The collective had made their move. Horan was beside Amara in an instant, weapon drawn. "Get down!" But Amara wasn't looking at him. She was looking at the human delegation, at the colonists and engineers who were frozen in panic, and at the collective soldiers pouring in through the breached entrances. "No," she said. "No, we're not doing this." "Amara," Horan started. "They want to prove we're weak," Amara said. "Let's prove them wrong." She turned to the human delegation. "Listen up. I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But we've got two choices. We can hide and hope someone saves us, or we can fight back. Show them what humans do when we're cornered." "We're not soldiers," someone said. "Neither am I," Amara said. "But I'm stubborn, and I'm angry, and I'm really tired of people trying to kill me. Who's with me?" For a moment, nobody moved. Then a dock worker named Chen, no relation to anyone, just a guy who'd been part of the labor delegation, picked up a piece of broken debris and nodded. "I'm in," he said. Then another human stepped forward. And another. Within seconds, the entire delegation was armed with improvised weapons, chairs, debris, anything they could grab, and looking to Amara for direction. "Okay," Amara said. "Okay, here's what we do. We use the environment. We're smaller, so we're faster. We know this building. Most of us helped build it. Use that. Hit and run. Don't try to be heroes. Just slow them down until the real soldiers can do their job." Horan was staring at her. "You are insane." "Yeah, probably," Amara said. "You coming or not?" The fight that followed was chaos. The collective had brought heavy weapons and trained soldiers, but they hadn't counted on the humans fighting back. Amara's people used the building's layout against them, collapsing scaffolding, triggering fire suppression systems, turning the convention center into a maze of obstacles and hazards. Amara herself fought with a piece of pipe and pure spite, staying close to Horan, who was cutting through collective soldiers with brutal efficiency. She wasn't trying to win fights. She was trying to survive them. And there was a difference. A collective soldier cornered her near the stage, weapon raised. Amara threw her pipe at his face, ducked under his return fire, and kicked out his knee. He went down, and she grabbed his weapon, even though she barely knew how to use it. "Amara!" Horan shouted. "Behind you!" She spun, fired without aiming, and somehow hit the soldier who'd been sneaking up on her. Luck or instinct, she didn't know, and didn't care. The battle raged for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Then Naxrill arrived with Imperial guards, and suddenly the collective soldiers were the ones being overwhelmed. The fighting ended quickly after that. Amara sat on the edge of the stage, breathing hard, covered in dust and blood. Some hers, most not, and watched as collective soldiers were rounded up and restrained. Naxrill approached, and he looked impressed? It was hard to tell with HFY expressions. "You rallied your people," he said. "You fought." "We fought," Amara corrected. "All of us. That's what humans do. We're stubborn like that." "I am beginning to understand," Naxrill said, "why the High Commander chose you as kin chosen." Amara looked up to find Horan standing there, and there was something different in his eyes. Respect, maybe. Or at least the beginning of it. "You were right," Horan said quietly. "I did not understand what it meant to be human. I thought weakness was physical. I did not account for strength of will." "Does this mean you like me now?" Amara asked. "I tolerate you," Horan said. "It is a start." The aftermath took hours to sort through. The collective's leadership was arrested, including Ambassador Lixoth, who'd orchestrated the entire operation. Turned out he was HFY himself, a high-ranking official who'd believed that associating with humans would weaken his species. He'd arranged the original attack on Rennick, hoping to prevent any human-HFY alliance from forming. He'd failed spectacularly. The Galactic Council, having watched humans fight back against overwhelming odds, voted to grant humanity elevated status within the coalition. It wasn't unanimous, but it was decisive. Amara declined the medals and ceremonies that followed. She'd had enough of being a symbol. 2 months later, she was back at the docks, not as a supervisor this time, but as a liaison between human workers and alien trade partners. It was still manual labor, still long hours, but it paid better and came with significantly fewer assassination attempts. Rennick visited once a week, usually with Horan in tow. The kid was learning human customs and teaching Amara HFY ones, and it was weird and awkward and kind of wonderful. Naxriel stopped by occasionally, always formal, always respectful. The kin-chosen bond was real, and Amara was still getting used to having an 8-foot warrior consider her family. "I have a question," Horan said one afternoon, standing guard while Amara processed shipping manifests. "Shoot," Amara said. "Would you do it again?" Horan asked, knowing what would follow. The fame, the attacks, the complications. Would you still save the child? Amara thought about it. About the plasma bolts and the pain and the 3 weeks in a coma. About becoming a political symbol and a target. About her apartment burning and her quiet life ending. Then she thought about Rennick's smile and the carved stone she kept in her pocket. "Yeah," she said. "I would." "Why?" Horan asked. "Because he's a kid," Amara said simply. "And kids shouldn't have to be scared. That's reason enough." Horan nodded slowly. "I have been assigned as permanent liaison to human space," he said. "I requested the position." "Oh, great," Amara said. "I'm stuck with you now?" "It is my honor," Horan said. "That's what I was afraid of," Amara replied. But she was smiling when she said it. The galaxy had changed its view of humanity. They were no longer the soft, weak newcomers. They were the species that fought back, that protected their own, that refused to quit even when the odds were impossible. And Amara, who just wanted to finish her shift and go home, had somehow become the symbol of all that. It was ridiculous. But maybe, she thought, ridiculous wasn't so bad after all.